Halloween
forever.
All right, boys, I got one for you. Ready? So you walk into a restroom, right? And you see a vampire clown.
Mm-hmm.
It's masturbating in front of the mirror.
Okay.
Right? Bet you didn't see that coming.
Welcome,
Welcome, boys and ghouls, to a very hilarious minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
And I'm Steve.
Hey, and we got a guest on, a brand new guest on this here minisode, guys. Let me take a quick second to prep you for this one. This is exciting. We've got actor, producer, writer, former professional baseball player, which I didn't know until very recently, former Chicago Cubby, and dare I say, boys, we got a dang hunk on our hands here tonight. Welcome, one Mr. Ken Arnold. Thanks for coming on, Ken.
Oh, guys, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man. This is fantastic. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited for you to come on. Coincidentally, we talked about one of your more recent films, although you got a ton of acting credits. We talked about Last Night at Terrace Lanes recently, which was just released, and then we started chit-chatting on the old internet, decided to talk about I'm sure our listeners out there saw when they clicked on the title of this here episode. We're going to talk about 2017's The Night Watchmen. But Ken, you've been in a bunch of stuff. Our listeners might know you from either one of these movies or also.
Brian, it's really important that we don't screw this up tonight because this is the first time I get to talk to somebody from The Wire. So
all right, you take it from there, because I have famously not seen The Wire yet, and I am regularly ridiculed for it. So,
well, I mean, Ken plays a smaller part in The Wire. It's fair to say that's pretty early in your acting career, though.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And I think we'll find like an interesting thread throughout the night that like Ken has a lot of ties to. Because of his ties to the Baltimore Orioles, we'll find that like a lot of the films that he's been in were also set in like the Maryland, Fredericksburg, and Baltimore areas.
That is true. That is very true.
Although I've not spent a lot of time in Baltimore, we're from Pittsburgh. It's not too dang far away. I have spent a significant amount of time in Frederick, Maryland, which is not necessarily the same as Fredericksburg.
That's probably what I meant.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Frederick, Maryland. All right. Okay, good. I was going to say maybe there's two different cities and I'm terrible with geography, but I have spent a lot of time drinking beer in Frederick, Maryland. In any case, guys, we got a couple of things to do at the top of the show before we jump into this whole movie, but not the least of which, we should get involved with some beers. Ken, I know you got a beer here. Steve, do you want to kick us off with beers tonight?
Sure, as I got some beers, and I'm drinking. I was upset because I wanted to have some Heavy Seas on the show because again, they're out of Frederick, aren't they? So
yeah, they're in that general vicinity, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Heavy Seas is Frederick is Flying Dog is the main one in Frederick. Heavy Seas is close. Yeah, it's not too far away, but yeah, Flying Dog is the one in Frederick. And they closed down their tap room, which really, because they had a great Tom Selleck day there and everybody would dress up like Tom Selleck. I love Tom Selleck and I would go every year to the Tom Selleck day, and they closed their tap room. They don't do it anymore. So, but they still got great beers in Frederick. I love Frederick to go drinking. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my old co-host from Hop Nation USA, Adam, he went to Tom Selleck Day once. I think he made it down there for that once. But
now is this a Frederick wide thing, the Tom Selleck Day, or is this specifically a Flying Dog thing?
It was specifically a Flying Dog.
Okay.
Event. Yeah.
I got excited. Yeah. Well, I got disappointed because I thought, well, dang it, I missed this phenomenon that is Tom Selleck Day. And then I thought, well, maybe this is just like, maybe Tom Selleck's from there, and this is just like a regional holiday or like the running of the bulls or something. But
look, in my opinion, it should be a national holiday, but it's not. So, yeah.
Well, guys, this is an opportunity for you to get politically involved. Call up your senators, call up your congressmen, tell them we want Tom Selleck Day. I'll support it.
Change.org. Start a petition.
All right. Sorry, Steve. I interrupt you. What are you drinking on over there?
I don't have anything from Heavy Seas, but I found somewhere stashed in the back of the fridge there I still had a can of Heady Topper.
Oh, nice.
Oh, still hanging out there, huh?
Yeah. I just had a can of Heady Topper for no reason. So, yeah, from The Alchemist out of Vermont.
Yeah,
And
that's great. That's a great brewery.
Yeah, it's a great beer. It's a great brewery. We just started getting it in PA like 2 years ago or something like that. They started sneaking us little stashes of Heady Topper and Focal Banger. But
Yep.
yeah, now we get it pretty regularly. The new hotness is the Veil. Now we get the Veil. So everybody's hyped on that.
Yes, people are all psyched about that's the new hype brewery in town that just released, and then people forget about it 6 months from now and go on to whatever else is cool. Unfortunately, but I am going with something just slightly more pedestrian, although I would argue every bit as yummy. I'm drinking just a good old Warsteiner Pils. I was running a little late here. Kids' activities and all that mess. So before we jumped on, I went downstairs, grabbed me a couple of these Warsteiner Pils, didn't even grab myself a glass. I'm usually Mr. Proper Glassware, and I'm just slumming it here today out of the can, but
Shameful.
Easy drinking, crisp, snappy German Pils that is cost-effective go-to for me. But Ken, what are you drinking? I see you got a big boy over there.
I am drinking Brother Thelonious from North Coast Brewing out in California. And I love this beer. You know, I found it at one of the local restaurants here that has since closed. And, you know, they turned me on to it, and they have it at the beer place right up the street from my house. And I go in there and I stop and I get it. I get the 4-pack. I once stopped and got the case, and it turned out to be $100 a case.
Yeah, I was
like, you know what? It's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that
That's
again.
more of a 4-pack beer. Yeah. Man, I love beer from them, which I haven't had in a minute, but we used to be able to get it fresh quite often out here, and before the kind of flood of all these different craft breweries popping up, which is Scrimshaw, their Pilsner is really nice as well.
Yep.
And love me some North Coast.
I was an old Rasputin.
Yeah, old Rasputin.
They have a whole selection at the liquor store up here, and they did have the Scrimshaw, but I didn't get it. I got Brother Thelonious tonight. So
yeah, that was one of my first kind of big imperial stouts I ever had. Was like Steve said, was old Rasputin. Killer beer. I think probably a lot of people's first imperial stout.
Yep.
Anyway, boys, we got the beer talk out of the way. But we got some other important business, some potentially cutthroat business here that we got to deal with for this dang old showdown episode for next month. For those of you who are new to the show, first of all, where you been? Get with the program here, guys. We've been doing this for a minute. Jump on board. We have new tasty, sticky sweet content on the dang old internet every Monday for you in the form of these here minisodes. But the first Monday of every month, we do something special. We do something called a showdown episode, where our social media friends and listeners, they will pick a bunch of different topics, suggest them to us. We throw them on this dang spinny ass wheel. We spin the wheel, we get 3 topics, and then yins help us vote on social medias at Halloween's Forever on Instagram, at Hallow Forever on Twitter. We even got a dang old TikTok, shit like that. And you guys help us vote. You select one of those topics, and then myself, Steve, and our guest pick a movie associated with those topics. Last week, one of our Patreon listeners suggested to us that we should do Clowns, and we threw that on the wheel, and lo and behold, Clowns won. Coincidentally, that was even before we were bringing Ken on to talk about the Night Watchmen, which got some dang old vampire clowns. So what a coinky dink. But that's what we're going to do for March. We eventually had a suggestion. I think it was I think it was Dan perhaps that suggested on our Patreons that said,
it was Ron.
I was Ron. I mean, I always do. I did that exact same thing last time. Ron said it, but I gave the credit to Dan on it. Anyway, he said, well, listen, if you don't pick, because we're going to put up some Meg rails, right? Should we do things like It, Killer Clowns from Outer Space? We said, you know what? Maybe we don't, but then we dedicated an entire episode to it later in the month. And that spawned the idea that has now become what Steve shamefully tried to refer to as March clownness, which has no ring to it. I mean, just the marketing ineptitude is just through the roof. We're going to, I think one of our social media friends suggested we call it the March Toward Clown Madness. I like just the March of the Clowns, right? Well, there was another one, Steve. What did you had? You had another good one.
No, I just called it Clown Mania. It wasn't
Clown Mania. Yeah, we were really trying to get that like bracketology March Madness tie-in. Like the puns weren't coming.
So I switched to WrestleMania because you were so down on March Clownness. So I switched to WrestleMania.
As I should have been. That's hot. That's hot trash. Anyway, we're gonna talk. Let's talk about Clown Mania, guys. For the entire month of March, we're going to talk about clowns, but we got to get that Showdown episode out of the way first. So Steve, having taken the last Showdown episode, he gets to what's the order we're gonna pick here? Because we've decided that we're not going to do we're not going to do Killer Clowns. We're not Killer Clowns from Outer Space, specifically that film. We're not going to do It, those sorts of things. So we're going to go a little bit, a couple layers of the onion are going to get peeled back here. What's the order we're going to pick, Steve?
So I'll announce our guest, because we usually give our guests first dibs.
Oh, yes, of course.
So I'll announce who our guest is and what he picked, and he actually had a process going through. Okay. Then I'm going to give you my pick. Not that I think you'll take it, but I just really want to make sure you don't.
Okay. And then, I'm worried now because you think I'm not gonna, but now I have a couple of, deep dives that we'll see. We'll see.
I just really think I found a real pearl, and it's more about me making sure I get this movie. Not that I don't have backups, but I just found a real pearl. Let me put it this way. This movie has less reviews overall than Night Watchmen has 5 stars on Letterboxd. The Night Watchmen has more 5-star reviews than this movie has reviews at all.
Wow,
nobody has seen it.
So you are really truly deep diving it here.
But I didn't even watch the whole movie yet. I just watched the first 30 minutes, and I swear to God,
you were so smitten.
I found something wonderful. So
I feel like I'm talking to somebody who fell in love for the first time.
I did. I'll explain it. I'll explain it when I get to my stuff. But let's announce our guests first. So our guest for March, I reached out. I thought to myself, Steve, there's somebody out there who just hasn't gotten a fair shake on this show yet.
Yeah.
But I bet he would love clowns.
Okay.
I reached out to him. He's known for different branding. Mm-hmm. He's known for the old Sam Squanches. He's known for the Yetis. He's known for the Bigfoots.
All right.
But in March, we're getting a visit from old Clown Ben. It's not Bigfoot Ben. It's Clown Ben. It's Clown Shoe Ben.
Old Clown Ben, our friend, the old Clown Ben, the artist formerly known as Bigfoot Ben, will be back on the show. This is I'm just learning this now. I mean, this is like you're announcing it during a promo here backstage, and I'm standing in center. I'm standing in center of the squared circle, and I'm shocked. So I'm excited to have our old Clown Ben, formerly known as Bigfoot Ben, talk about clowns. All right, what's Ben's pick for the March of the Clowns?
So as you know, like Ben has not gotten to pick his own movie.
Yeah.
All the other times he's been on our show. So this time he got to pick his own movie, and he threw about 4 at me before he landed on one.
Okay.
One of them he threw. He thought about doing Blood Harvest with Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
And I was like,
okay,
that's
on my list. I'm not lying.
Yeah. I was like, that's a great pick. Mm-hmm. But he decided he's going to settle on Clown Town.
Clown Town. This is not one that I'm familiar. Ken, are you familiar with Clown Town?
I have seen some stuff about Clown Town. I haven't seen the whole movie, but I think I've seen the trailer. It was recent. Came out recently.
It's pretty recent.
Yeah.
What's the year on that?
I've seen the trailer.
I have to look up.
because this is new to me. Yeah, sorry to put you on the spot. Because I'm not familiar with Clowntown. As we all know,
the reason why I'd know it is because we did a short segment in an anthology we did called Clowntown, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's cool. Somebody made a feature called Clowntown, which is cool. So yeah, that's why that's how I knew it.
That's interesting. Okay, I'm excited for Ben to pick a deep cut that I'm not familiar with. Now I'm wondering if, Steve, this obscure movie you're talking about, perhaps I haven't seen as well. I might be doing a couple of first time watches here.
Oh,
for the first time in a while.
If you haven't seen Clowntown, there's no way you've seen my movie.
Yeah.
But Clowntown is from 2016.
2016. Okay.
Yeah.
2016.
Can I throw one out there? A clown movie?
Yeah.
I would love.
Please.
Okay. Can I do it now?
Yeah, please do it.
Okay. I don't know how it works if I give it away or whatever.
No. Do it.
If you have an idea, you might help Brian along.
I might steal your idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a good friend of mine, Kevin Kangas, who's a local director here in the Maryland area, he did a film called Fear of Clowns, and it came out in 2004. And it stars Frank Lama and Mark Lassis. Mark Lassis is a good friend of mine. We did The Guiding Light together, actually, years ago.
Nice.
We were doing soap operas up in New York. So, Fear of Clowns and Fear of Clowns 2. So if you haven't seen those, check them out.
Fear of Clowns and Fear of Clowns 2. I love it. it. I'm partial to 2004. I think that was an underrated year in horror. I'll check out anything in 2004. That was a good vintage. Good vintage.
Well, I got a movie that looks like it was filmed in 2004.
Yeah.
But it was released in 2009.
Yeah.
And the film is simply called Killer Clown.
Okay. That's with a C, I would assume.
Yes. Killer Clown with a C.
From 2000 and would you say 5?
2009.
2009.
Also sometimes comes up as 2010.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll see it as 2009 on Tubi. The magic thing about this is I stumbled upon this film, and it is simply right in league with Tommy Wiseau or a Neil Breen film.
Okay.
It is the Malaysian Neil Breen, because it is written, directed, starring, production company by this guy named Julian Chia.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just everything to this movie. And you know how we've used the phrase in the past, every frame a mistake?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it is in this. Oh man!
Yeah.
So I'm excited to watch this. This is completely. I know nothing about this.
It rules so hard. The 30 minutes I watched, like I said, I just shut it off because I knew I had my movie. Like I had watched a bunch of other movies that I thought were pretty good, but like there's one I'll actually suggest to the audience. It's called Circus Kane.
Okay.
And it has Jonathan Lipnicki from the Jerry Maguire, but like he's an adult in this because this movie's from 2017.
Right?
Yeah. He plays like kind of the lead in that. But yeah, it's a pretty decent movie, and I almost picked it, but then I stumbled on this, and I was like, nope, sorry. But if you want to check out Circus Kane, that's also on Tubi, and it's pretty good.
Okay. I'm excited for that. This is putting me in a tough spot here. And now that I'm the last to pick, I won't keep anything too close to the vest here. Here's what I'm down to, right? Blood Harvest was on my list, starring the great Tiny Tim. I am unironically a Tiny Tim fan. I love him. I just think he's one of the most interesting people. I also have Drive Through from 2007 with the clown that has it's not a circus clown, it's a fast food clown, right?
Yeah.
And he's got the speaker for, he kind of talks through. I also have the movie Stitches from 2012, which is a little bit funny, like a funny kind of very hyper gory slasher type of thing. And then I have a movie that is a real out of left field pick, which will be such a stark contrast to the two movies that you guys picked from the sounds of it. It's a movie from 2010 and I believe it's a Spanish movie. And it is called The Last Circus.
Oh, damn.
And it is just an emotional roller coaster of a movie.
I don't know how that one's going to fail, or I mean, subconsciously I just said fail, but
I know,
I don't know how that one's going to fare against what Ben and I picked, because
two sillies. You got two sillies, and then that movie is serious as a heart attack.
It's serious, but it's also a black comedy, and also its production value is really great because
so much better. Yeah. It's generally like, I mean, this was like a critically acclaimed film at like it on the festival circuit.
Right. Yeah. It won like the best director at the Venice Film Festival, I think, because this was another film that was on my list. Ken, are you aware of the director Alex de la Iglesias?
I am not.
His big thing right now is the TV show 30 Coins, which is on like HBO Max. But he also has a film that we did previously called El Dia de la Bestia, and he's a filmmaker from Spain, and a lot of his work is all about like the Francoist era of Spain and like all the trauma that comes out of that and the religion, and like so all his stuff is either religious or Francoist Spanish themed. And like this movie Brian's talking about, The Last Circus, is fucking bonkers. Like you literally can't predict where it's going to go from scene to scene.
It is when I say it's an emotional roller coaster, it really and truly is. To say like you mash up two of my favorite subgenres of horror, which is clowns and religious horror, and this is a mashup equally of both. It's kind of hard to describe any other way. I do think, Steve, that this will probably be a really stark contrast to the two movies that you and Ben picked. So I'm gonna do, and despite the fact that Ben threw it up there, actually that might play to my benefit. This is one of the few opportunities I'm going to get to talk about just a campy love letter to kind of schlock in my book, which is Blood Harvest. So I'm going to do Blood Harvest from 1987. I think that'll fit the oeuvre a little bit better. Yeah.
Like I said, Ben originally picked that, and I was like, oh, he just took a Brian film.
Oh yeah, you can tell that has me written all over it.
Yeah, I was glad he switched to Clown Town, because like he doesn't automatically win your vote for having the Tiny Tim film.
Okay, so to review, if you want to keep up, if you want to watch these films with us for the discussion, go check out Ben's pick, Clown Town from 2016, Steve, Killer Clown from 2009. Is this a Tubi situation, Steve?
It's all Tubi.
It's
all Tubi, baby.
Okay, it's on Tubi. And then Blood Harvest from 1987 for me. And then also, while you're at it, while you're on you're having a dang old clown rampage this week, go check out Fear of Clowns from 2004, or Fear of Clowns 2, which is Ken's pick for clown movies. All right, guys, before we get in all this clown business, we got a little appetizer for you. We are going to talk about a movie starring our guest, Mr. Ken Arnold, called The Night Watchmen from 2017. One quick thing I'll ask Ken before we get into the movie, because I will oftentimes forget. For our listeners who want to follow you and follow your projects and other cool things you got going on social media or wherever, where would our friends find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Ken Arnold Actor, and also on X and on Facebook. So you can find me, Ken Arnold Actor, on all three.
Get over there and follow our friend Ken. And if you haven't already, follow Halloween is Forever as well. And I should probably mention, because I haven't in a few weeks, if you want us to send you some dang old stickers in the mail, go over there and on your podcatcher app, your Spotify's, your Apple Podcasts, go over there and give us a 5-star review. DM us on the social medias while you're going over there to follow at Ken Arnold Actor, and give us a 5-star review, and then shoot us a DM, and I'll send you some dang old stickers in the mail. Okay, let's get into this movie. So from 2017, Ken, if you don't mind, tell us about how you got involved in this project, in The Night Watchmen.
A friend of mine, Dan DeLuca, who's also in the movie, he helped me create the film. We actually were sitting around my office up in Baltimore one day. I had a studio in an old broom factory, and we were just sitting there. We just said, we looked at each other. We're like, you know what? We should make a movie here in this old building because it's scary as hell. And what kind of an idea can we come up with? So, he went and thought about it for a little bit, and within a week he had an outline for a film of 3 Night Watchmen getting stuck in this building with a coffin that gets delivered overnight. And then we kind of padded it out. We went and we shot a 7-minute short. We raised a little bit of money to do that, to kind of, give it a previs so people could see what it was going to be like. And then we used that to get investors. And then we went ahead and hired a director, Mitchell Altieri, and we cast the rest of the film, made some changes to the script to adapt to the location we found here in Annapolis, Maryland. And we came up with the Night Watchmen. And it took us a little while because we came up with the idea in 2010 or 11. And we didn't get to shoot it until 2015. So it took a little bit to get to that point. It took about 4 or 5 years.
That's so interesting, though, to hear that, because I was about to, my next question was going to be, where did you guys shoot this? This is such a great location. It's just so many different, you just have so much variety. You know what I mean? You feel like you're in a giant abandoned, factory. Oh, you are.
That's exactly. That's exactly where we were. The Capital Gazette newspaper here in Annapolis, Maryland, had just been bought by the Baltimore Sun, and they moved out of there. Their printing facility, they shut it down, because everybody's doing digital now, and they didn't need it. So their Baltimore Sun's printing facility was going to take everything over. So they just up and just left, walked out the doors, and shut it down, and left everything behind. And we came
all
across
the furniture and everything. And I knew a guy that did commercial real estate in Annapolis. He's one of the people who worked on it, one of our investors. And he said, look, I can get a great deal on this place, and you guys can do whatever you want in there, and you can use, everything. So it was such a great deal. And it became our own movie studio for a month and a half. It was fantastic. It really was. Everything was right there. It was in the building. Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I love to hear when like opportunity kind of arises, and then you have an idea, and then you just kind of mesh those two things together into a project. That's I mean, just to preface that, like, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because in the story, so just to kind of set up the tableau here, we've got we're kind of thrust into a situation where you're seeing some news reports, first of all, really quickly, just kind of plant the seed of a troop of clowns that came down with some sort of horrible illness, this famous clown Blippo, but then his entire kind of cadre of clowns, if you will, who come down with some sort of illness while traveling they don't say Transylvania, do they? I think
Romania.
I think they just say Romania. Yeah.
Romania.
So now all of our horror, spidey senses are tingling here. We have, I just saw, Ron just said the honkening, which is a very good, funny name for a clown horror movie. Anyway, and now their clown corpses, of course, in full makeup and regalia, are being shipped back across the Atlantic to this lab. We quickly find that one of them ends up getting accidentally shipped to this building. But it's interesting for you to hear that this actually was a newspaper printer, this building, because that's the office setting. Now, I guess it really could have been almost any office setting, but you guys had the building, and that's what it was. So why not call it that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we had to do. We had to go back into the script, and we changed it so it was a newspaper facility. So in the original script, it wasn't a newspaper. But once we found the location, we were like, all right, let's rewrite it so it matches, the place that we have. So
I think it's funny because it also just reminds me of like the production stories I heard about, like Poultrygeist, where they got like that hollowed out like KFC. And then everybody was also living in the KFC while they're filming at the KFC. It's like, was that same situation? You had a bunch of cots in a different room that's off camera.
Oh yes, we had plenty of people who had made that their home for the month and a half that we were there, and it had everything there. So it had showers, it had it had everything. So we were fine. It had nice couches that everybody could make a bed out of, and we spent many a night there after just hanging out, and relaxing after a long day. Had a couple of these, and so we didn't want anybody to leave, so everybody would just crash
just have a couple 2-3 beers. Yeah, hang out on set. It's
2-3 bottles of vodka. Who knew? Whatever. So,
yeah, this scene feels
speaking
like
of beers, I'm gonna grab another one.
It's time. Yeah, I'm double fisting here. I opened another one, forgetting that my other one was full, so I'm double fisting here.
Another Vorsteiner Pils?
No, I actually grabbed because this was my last Vorsteiner Pils. I ended up grabbing one of these here simply spiked situations here, just because I'm running dangerously low on beer. As a person who does beer things for a living, I'm shamefully low on beer in my house right now. In any case, really fun cast, really funny cast, and I can imagine this being a fun group of folks to hang out with. So so we'll talk about the primary cast here. Ken is playing Ken, and then and so easy to remember there. And then Dan DeLuca, which I think you just mentioned, right? So he's a friend of yours, right? And he plays Luca.
Yes, we kept it simple so we could all. So when we write, we know who we're writing for. So that's why we do it that way. But when we got to the point where, what do we want to call these guys? We were like, let's just keep it simple and just keep the names the way they are. So that's what we did.
That makes perfect sense, right? Ken, like that was easier. But I was surprised to learn because I genuinely laughed out loud at Jiggets. I just thought that was such a funny, like, rent-a-cop name. You know what I mean? Because that's essentially what these guys are, right? They're security guards. They're talking about how they, their histories, their job histories are not the most glorious, or glorified jobs they've done in the past. Later we learned that like Luca was a baker, that his bakery got closed, so he ended up finding just as a job. Justin, or he's credited in IMDb as Rajiv, which he's wearing another guy's uniform, but Justin, he's like nobody else would hire me, kind of thing. And then, we learn a little bit more about Ken, which we'll hold on to that and talk about in a minute. But Jiggets just sounded like a funny buddy cop name. And so I was surprised to learn that the actor's real name is Kevin Jiggets.
And that it is, Kevin Jiggets. Yeah. And he's one of my oldest and dearest friends. I love that guy.
He is hilarious.
I know where you were going, what you were going to mention about my character, and we can talk about that when you bring that up. I'm going to tell you something about Kevin that a lot of people don't know about Kevin, but it ties into my character and what I pretend to be. So
okay, all right, I like that. Yeah, we'll tease that out. And then of course we have Cara Louise. Is it Louise?
Yes, Cara Louise. She's a fantastic actor out of LA. She's fantastic. She's got a great sense of comedic timing, and she's doing a lot of work out in LA now. And she's killed it. She did a great job for us.
She's really great. Really funny. She plays Karen. A couple other people who aren't in it as much, but are worth mentioning at the top of the show here. James Remar as Randall. A lot of you guys will recognize his face. He's been in just a ton of stuff. I think most notably, or the thing a lot of folks will remember him as, he was in Oppenheimer just recently.
Yes, he was. Right?
So like people I mean, you'll remember him from a million different things, but that was one of like the highest grossing movies of last year. So
I think our fans specifically will remember him as one of the first FBI agents we encounter in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yes. And also we do, Ken, I need to explain this real fast. We do a horrible podcast. It's really a scourge of my existence. It's a Patreon exclusive podcast just for our Patreon viewers, where Steve is making me watch all the Fast and the Furious movies, and I've never seen them, and he likes them, and I don't, and it's he just is dragging me through the mud every single episode. But yes, you're right, Steve. He was in the Fast and the Furious franchise.
I don't want to say anything because I haven't seen any of the Fast and Furious movies at all.
Yeah, I had only seen the first one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Hey, don't burn any bridges, Ken. You might be able to wind up in part 11 if you try it. Like, don't burn any bridges that way.
Listen,
I would love to. Now, I watched Hobbs and Shaw. Does that count?
Yeah, so you watch that. Does
that count as one?
Yeah, that's one of them. It's a side story. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I really enjoyed that one. Yeah.
I had only seen the first one, and then Steve has chosen to punish me by going through all these. We've watched 7 of them so far. Anyway, Deanna Reasonover plays Penny. She's great. She's kind of an emotional kind of character. We get a couple of quick sequences with the great Tiffany Shepis as Stacy.
Yep.
And then a great, really funny cameo by the great Matt Servito as Willie, the kind of badass and then quickly dead janitor.
One-eyed janitor.
One-eyed janitor. And so again, another really, really recognizable performer. Anyway, I would describe this, and I hope you think this is fair. I would describe this as like a horror take on almost like and I don't mean this in a literal sense, although it does come into the story at some point, but like a stoner horror take on like Super Troopers a little bit.
Yeah, you nailed it. You really did, because that's that was kind of where the avenue we were going down with this whole thing. But yeah, we wanted it to have that feel, that kind of a movie feel to it, with the horror bent to it, as opposed to, just being silly. So we also kind of modeled it after Shaun of the Dead.
Sure.
In that vein a little bit. So, but yeah, that was where we got the inspiration. So, I love those movies. I love Hot Fuzz, all of those movies that those guys did. So I love those. And when we wrote this, I was just like, I wanted to have that kind of feel to it. A lot of people bring up Killer Clowns from Outer Space when they see it.
Sure.
But that was more our director, Mitchell Altieri. He brought that to the film when he came on board. So. Yeah. There's a couple of gags too that now that you say that, I'm like, boy, they could be straight out of Shaun of the Dead. A couple of gags later on, so we'll talk about them. For I will say a handful. And when Steve was talking about, I think connected with you about coming on, he was like, we got to do the Night Watchmen. It's really funny. He's like, you're going to like it a lot. And I did. I laughed out loud quite a bit during this movie. Right off the bat, when you've got Ken, I'll set this up, right? So you've got Ken and Jiggets. They are kind of like the buddy cop duo, right? The best friend duo who work together. It's kind of their domain, right? The back room, the security room, if you will, at the newspaper. They've got their kind of security guard outfits ready to rock. And you can pretty much tell right off the bat kind of what those characters are like. Jiggets is the kind of hard-boiled, no-nonsense kind of guy. And then Ken's kind of the try hard, right? Like you see right off the bat, you got the sleeves rolled up, you're flashing the guns, he's just just like in real life.
Yeah, that's what I said. We got a dang old beefcake on our hands. Listen, guys, in the horror community, we don't got a lot of professional athlete beefcakes over here. Me and Steve are mostly just like, I have like 4 half-eaten Twizzlers in front of me. So that's where we're at usually in the horror community. So it's
Brian and I are composed of 90% pierogi, so like
there's nothing wrong with that. I like a good pierogi, I'll tell you that
we're a bunch of soft boys over here in the horror community typically. So yeah, Ken's flashing the guns in the movie, and you can kind of tell that really gives a little bit of an indication of where his character's coming from, right? He's kind of really I want to go as far. Yeah, I mean, kind of attempting to haze the new hire, which is Justin, who
for sure
has already been hired and they're acting like they're interviewing him, like they have a say whether he works there or not, right? So they're kind of like giving him the third degree, and one of the lines that got me laughing right off the bat was the phrase Santa dicks. I think Jiggets throws out there right in the first scene. I was like, all right, I feel like I'm going to be on board with the tone of this movie. Another great line, which, you know, he doesn't have a ton of lines, but Luca, what what does he say? What do you mean? What do I mean? Like, I'm a sucker for that line. Anyway, so a lot of banter, a lot of fun, kind of buddy cop stuff, and then of course you have the interloper, right? You have Justin, the young kid, coming in there and kind of getting read the riot act. These stoner guys, you know, delivery guys, leave a corpse in exchange for weed, right? And Jiggets kind of is like, hey, I will let you leave this here, because they're going to give him a dime bag, right? Or something along those lines.
Exactly.
So this is the inciting incident, obviously. But of course, at this point, it's just kind of breezed over, right? We got other people to be introduced to. Randall is he's like kind of the boss, right? But he's like the company creep also. Like he's kind of the guy who you don't want to rub up against, going between the cubicles. He's a real creep, but he also kind of wants to be part of the gang a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. One of my favorite lines from him. Because James Remar came in and he wanted to do something different with this character. He didn't want to play, you know, like he normally does. He wanted to make this guy strange and creepy. And the one line when we meet him for the first time, he walks into our office and he comes up to us and he says, you know, what about you know, you're a muscular guy, you like gladiator movies. He says that to me, and then he tells his wife on the phone as he's walking out, he's like, yeah, we're gonna have a Ben-Hur hot tub night. I was like,
yeah, I love that he was just bought in 100% on playing an absolute creep, and just selling it, right? I love to see.
There was one. I got so many things to say about James Remar. The things he wouldn't do and the things he would do. Yeah, because there was one where I say in one scene, he was rubbing his junk up against Barney's face.
Yeah.
He was like, he goes, I'm not doing that. The director called him into the office and they closed the door. You could hear him yelling at each other. And guess what? 5 minutes later, he was doing it.
I was going to say he did do it. He did do it.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what they said to each other in there, but I just heard yelling, bah, and then next thing you know, he came out. He goes, all right, let's do it.
Hey, that's a mark of a good director there.
Yeah. He totally sells it though. Cause like it was one of the more like standout things to me about this film. Cause like, obviously we've all seen James Remar in a whole bunch of stuff, and he's always super serious and super straight laced and like just up and down. And like in this film, he is sweaty. He's gross. His posture's shit. His like neck is tucked into his, and he's just like, hey guys, what's going on?
Well, and I actually had to look real quick and like, who is that? Is that him? You know what I mean? I had to like IMDb it to make sure.
And he had that little lisp. He had that little lisp when he talked. He goes, let's document the merchandise. He was great. And let me tell you something, just hanging out with him, you know, when we weren't shooting, cool guy, really down to earth. You know, we were sitting around one day and we started talking about stories about, you ever been arrested? Right. And I don't know why we started talking about it, but, you know, one of the actors was like, oh, yeah, you know, I got arrested here. And me, I was like, yeah, you know, I got messing around in high school. You know, we got pulled over. We had some beer in the car and I got arrested for that. And then all of a sudden, Rebar just leans back and he's like, yeah, well, there's one time when I was over in England, I got off the plane. I got arrested for heroin. We're like, what? We're like, okay. And then, you know, it goes around the room a couple more times, a couple more people say something. Then he goes, yeah, well, there was another time. You know, I got back off the plane in L.A. and got arrested for heroin again. Whoa. like, what's going on? But he's been sober for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
So that was a long time ago. And he was just telling stories of what happened. And it's all public, man. Everybody knows what happened. He was in Aliens and he got replaced by Michael Biehn because he got arrested for heroin. And it was over.
I remember hearing that. I remember actually listening to that on a different podcast, coincidentally. Yeah.
He broke his foot on the way in too from LA.
Oh, geez.
So how you got to take your laptop and everything out at the airport. You got to take your shoes off, and then you got to take your electronics out. So he took his shoes off, and then he went to take his laptop out, and it slipped out of his hand and dropped right on top of his foot.
Oh shit!
Jesus!
And broke his foot. And he came out, and he didn't get it checked. Obviously, he flew out. We picked him up from the airport. Got to the set. His foot was all swollen. He had stunts to do and everything too. Went to the hospital, got it x-rayed. Boom. Yep, your foot's broken, sir. Came back to set, did his shoot, did all his stunts, never complained once. That's a trooper. Boom, James Remar.
Pro.
Hats off to him. What a great job. So
pro move. Pro move.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He just is one of those characters. I said, along with Matt Servito, who just like build out the world so well, right? And it'd be a different movie without him. But
yeah, Matt's a great actor. He's hilarious. He's funny to be around. He's one of the funnest guys I've ever been around in my entire life. He did an excellent job on that. Gave us great ideas for the character and the scenes that he was in. When we were shooting the one scene where he gets shot in the head.
Yeah.
He's sitting in the chair right before the camera rolls. He's sitting there and, he's duct taped to the chair and he's sitting there with the fangs and he's got all the makeup on and he's just like, yeah, I went to Juilliard. here I am.
Here we are. I was going to say, he's like a classically trained, I don't know if I say Shakespearean guy, but he's like a classically trained, stage actor guy, right?
He went to Juilliard.
Yeah.
Yep. He's got a great background as an actor and he's been doing it for so long and he's fantastic in everything he does. So, yeah.
Yeah. He's a guy that he's going to steal the show when he's on screen. So jumping back into, we get introduced to Karen and Penny. One of my favorite scenes, especially early on, they come in, Karen becomes the love interest of Ken pretty early on. We don't know yet, but kind of Penny is also kind of Karen's love interest. You just think they're kind of friends in the office at this point. In any case, they walk in, and of course, being the dirt bags and in their little world, in their little security room, they're watching porn, right? So they're watching porn on 9 what should be security monitor screens, and they come in and they're all quickly trying to shut it off because they're all embarrassed, and Ken grabs the cord and rips the entire socket with the drywall out of the wall, which is a great bit. And he's standing there holding a big hunk of drywall, and it's the outlet and everything's still on it. So leave it up to Randall. He's a creep. He's they hint at the fact that he's also a necrophiliac, and that's why he was creeping around the coffin. But he ends up opening the casket and lets out Blibpo, who we obviously all know as the audience is going to be a vampire. So guys, here's what we got here. We got dang old vampire clowns. You introduced to Tiffany Shepis as Stacy, who's like this ultra sexually aggressive office employee, which Count Honkula. She's hilarious in this, and later, I mean, her ultimate kind of demise is pretty tremendous as well. Blimpo starts aggressively draining people's blood. First, the guy who's walking his dog. This is not a seductive, sexy, Bram Stoker's Dracula type of way, or not the book isn't sexy, but like the movie, the Bram Stoker's Dracula, Keanu Reeves,
it's not Gary Oldman.
It's not Gary Oldman. It's not seductive, sexy vampire. This is mean old vampire clown is going to pick you up and rip your throat out.
Can I tell you about that guy who was walking the dog, who we originally approached to play that character? Two actors that you guys are going to be like, oh man, that would have been great, right? Mm-hmm. We originally approached John Waters.
Oh, really?
Yes.
God, I love John Waters.
Because Baltimore, the Baltimore connection.
Of course. I didn't even make.
And I've worked on John's films. When he shot Cecil B. Demented, I worked on that. I auditioned for his couple of his other ones. But we were friends with the casting director, who is John's best friend, Pat Moran, up in Baltimore. And we asked her, and she approached him about it, and he was thinking about it, but then, he kind of was like, you know what? I'm going to pass. So we were like, fine. All right. All well and good. Then we started making phone calls. When we brought on the director from LA, Mitchell Altieri, we got an LA casting director as well. We were talking with Frank Lang's agent about having him come out, but the price got a little bit too high. The price got a little too high for him. But we were, he fielded it, and he was like, yeah, I'll do it, but you guys got to pay me the price. We were just like, we can't afford that, man. We could have had Frank Langella.
I know.
Just for walking the dog.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah.
I mean, either one would
been awesome.
either one would have been fantastic. It's still a great scene, but yeah, I would love to see just, a relatively small part, guy walking dog that gets his blood sucked out, his throat ripped out, and it's just John Waters, right?
Right, yeah.
Walking down the street.
Yeah,
would have been great. To
get John Waters for that part would have been like, anytime you see like an indie film shot in New York and like Lloyd Kaufman shows up and gets killed. Yeah. It's like this, it's the same thing. It's just like, now it's Baltimore local.
Yep.
Yep. We almost had him. Almost, but yeah.
This is a great line, which, if this was a movie that I saw in college, I could have saw, me and my friends just repeating this line regularly. I wish I would have wrote down a little bit more of the context around it. Ken, you might remember better. But so we get introduced to Barney, who's like the just the kind of asshole guy that they love to torment around the office. They eat his lunch, they fuck with him, and he's the kind of guy, he kind of knows that they just dick off all day and kind of wants to hold their feet to the fire on it, but they just kind of torture him about it because the boss likes them. And they're talking about how he doesn't have toilet paper. He's mad because he doesn't have toilet paper. And they're like, listen, this isn't our job. That's not our department. And Jiggett says something to him about he doesn't have any toilet paper to wipe his ass, his dirty butt juice sloshing around. It's just a great. Listen, I have 7 and 9-year-old daughters, and just anything about dirty butt juice is going to make me crack up. But so people are starting to turn into undead corpses at this point, right? So the vampire virus or whatever it is spreading. Blood's everywhere, kind of thing. They're attacking people inside the office, just running around and randomly exposing each other's breasts, as vampires are wont to do. And they all decide, they see it on the screens, and it's like a bit of a holy shit moment. And he says, Justin says, we got to call 911. Runs over to call 911. Luca, who up until this point is like the mysterious guy, right? Is like, no cops. He like stabs the phone, and then he sees everything that's happening. He's like, okay, maybe cops. Calls them, and the expected wait time for 911 is 6 hours, which is a great bit.
Well, remember Jiggett's line. What does he say right after that? He walks up and he's like, fucking Baltimore.
Oh yeah, fucking Baltimore, right? Yeah, because it was like, it wasn't even that there is vampire clowns on the loose. It's just Baltimore, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just how it goes.
6 hour wait for 911. God damn it, fucking Baltimore. Shut it.
That's not good police.
No.
Is that a line from the show that I've never seen? Yeah, I got it.
Yep.
It is.
So really cool scene I loved here of them watching on the screen one of the office workers being dragged off by someone you can't see on camera, Really cool
That was
shot.
Karen. Yeah, that was Karen.
Oh, is that Karen getting pulled up? Yeah. Okay. I just didn't even make the connection until just now.
Okay.
But this was something interesting. First of all, I'm interested to hear how they shot that. What was the way that they pulled that off? But also, I'm kind of thinking I've seen hundreds, certainly well over 100 vampire movies. I'm sure that might be the first time I'm introduced to that aspect of the lore, which is that you can't see vampires on closed circuit camera.
Security cameras. Yeah. Security cameras. Can't see them.
Can't see them. Yeah. I love that aspect to the vampire lore, and I want that to just be widely accepted canon now. But I think that might be the first time I've ever seen that. So to add to the vampire lore after 100 years of vampire movies is way more than 100 years of vampire movies. That is that's an impressive feat. But I am interested to hear how that was shot, if you recall.
Well, what they did was, of course, she had a stunt double, but she did do the part where she fell down. And, she's waving, and all of a sudden she gets grabbed and she falls to the ground. Well, what they had on the stunt woman was they had a wire and a ratchet pull. So what they did was once she fell down, the wire just pulls her out and she goes sliding across the floor.
Gotcha.
And then in post-production, then they paint the wire out. You don't see the wire. You just see her sliding out of the frame. So,
yeah,
but that's
it
how
looked
they did
great.
that.
Yeah, it looked great. Yeah. I am the if you haven't told already, Steve is the trained filmmaker, and I'm just the the dipshit horror nerd. So I'm still very oohed and awed by how things like this get pulled off. But in any case, pretty quickly we learn Penny and Stacy are now vampires, and just like chaos is ensuing at this point. Karen, we learn, is still kicking, and great scene. And this is what I meant when it feels like it could be a Shaun of the Dead scene, is when they're like, wow, she's still alive, because Ken has this crush on Karen. Karen runs up, stabs him right above the breast, like right in the chest with a pencil or a pen. And it's like that delayed reaction scream.
Right here.
Yeah. That delayed reaction scream is just a gag that is going to make me laugh every single time. It's like the chaos, stab, quick pause, silence. Just that delayed scream is so great. It actually, you know what it reminds me of? And I just made this connection. Is it reminds me of when Ricky Bobby stabs himself in the leg with a knife in Talladega Nights.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
When he's like, stab. That just came to me.
You think about that too. What else does it go back to? Young Frankenstein, when Gene Wilder takes a scalpel and sticks it in his leg.
Oh yeah.
That is 100% the origin of that gag. You're right. Yeah.
So I'm a big Mel Brooks fan, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Young Frankenstein. I love it. I watch it anytime it's on.
I'm almost ashamed that I didn't make that connection. Yeah, that is absolutely the origin of that gag. We also get an important plot point, because it throws you off the scent here, is that Karen and Penny are a couple, right? So Ken's like, shit, because Ken had a crush on Karen. He's surprised. He's like, oh, she's gay. So now he thinks that perhaps, he doesn't have a chance anymore. He's not really sure, where she stands in terms of her sexuality. But so that kind of throws off the scent of the romantic tie there between those two characters. They do decide they're going to escape in a car. They run to the car. They don't have the keys. There's this great joke about how they all assume Jiggets can hotwire the car. And it's like, is it because I'm black you all think they can hotwire a car? They're like, yeah. And he's like, fucking white people. Yeah. Great gag.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I think that the real Kevin Jiggets can hotwire a car. So, as a matter of fact, when he was a young kid in D.C., that's what he did. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So listen, there's always truth. There's a certain amount of truth behind the gag, right?
Exactly.
Karen decides she's going to make a run for it in heels, which is a ballsy move. Another great, Mel Brooks-ish gag is Ken's trying to get her to not, right? He's got feelings for her. He's obviously worried about her well-being. She's going to make a run for it. he looks under they open the garage door. She runs under and he's looking under at her. And I believe Jiggett says, you were checking out her ass, weren't you? And then he goes, of course not. And then does the double take smile nod. Which is, again, it's like a great Mel Brooks gag.
Yeah, it was.
It's a funny gag. It's like a funny series of jokes too, because the way she disappears off into like the night, and then there's nothing, and then you just hear all the monsters, and she comes back running the opposite direction. And it's
she
still
just
like
did a circle, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still the same flat framing of everything. So, like, comedy's always best in a flat, wide frame. So, yeah, that's why, when she comes running back in and she's just chased by clowns and vampires, and it's fucking hilarious.
This is where we get Matt Servito jumping in as the badass janitor, and he comes in and he's got he's got some degree of secret knowledge, right? Ken, go ahead.
He does, but do you know do you know the vampire that he killed right there? You know who that was?
No.
Rain Pryor, Richard Pryor's daughter. That was Rain Pryor.
No shit. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, I would have never known that in a million years. That's really cool. Because she
Pryor.
comes running through. Yeah, she comes running after Karen, right?
Well, she jumps.
Yeah, she comes in under the door.
Under the door with Karen, holding on to Karen's legs. So we kind of rip them both into the bay, and then the door closes. But then we've got to deal with that vampire that's on top of Karen, and that's when Matt Servito comes in and takes care of the vampire. But that's Rain Pryor. We always try to get Rain in our movies every chance we get. Rain's fantastic. She lives in Baltimore, so we got to get her in our movies.
That's cool.
Every chance.
That was what I was going to ask. Is she a Baltimore local? That's awesome. That's awesome.
She is.
Yeah. So yeah, Matt comes in as Willie, the kind of almost like cowboyish, somewhere between cowboy and kung fu or something like that, right? He comes in and
it reminds me more of Quint and Samuel L. Jackson's character in Deep Blue Sea because of what happens exactly after this.
You nailed it, man. That's where the inspiration came from. Quint and that character. We were like, I want it to be like a mashup of this. Yeah, when we were talking about writing it. Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. It just because of what happens right after this of him, he's standing in front of a darkened doorway giving this big speech. And just like Samuel L. Jackson, and then is just sucked off into the darkness, and he's killed and turns into a vampire.
Well, and they're all hanging on his word, like they're leaning into his phrase, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's whoop, and then he just gets the Samuel L. Jackson treatment.
The balls! No, not his balls! Oh.
Just so unceremoniously, and then he comes back within a few minutes. And we get a great scene with him here in a second. But interestingly enough, the thing that I remember, and this scene reminded me of it so much, is like Matt Servito's been in a lot of things, but a show that I actually was on for a decent amount of episodes, but he was so funny in is Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He plays Satan in Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. And I mean, as many things as he's in, for me personally, when I see him, that's I don't know if that must be the ideal thing. I don't know how he feels about it, but like that show was so funny and just so
he loved working on that show. He talked about it. Yeah, he talked about it all the time. He talked about what a fantastic time he had working on that show. So yeah, he enjoyed that show a lot. Yeah, he really did.
I mean that is like one of the most just kind of funny, subversive comedy shows of the last freaking decade plus, as far as I'm concerned. But in any case, I mean, most people know probably from The Sopranos, right? But I think a lot of our as Agent, I think it was Agent Harris or whatever, right?
Agent Harris, and on Banshee, he was Brock. So Banshee was another.
Yeah, our delinquent fan base might know him from Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. But in any case, we get this great bit where he comes back. They have him tied to a chair. Ken is kind of always, kind of struggling with this idea. You get introduced to him earlier on as like he's an ex-Marine, right? So he's kind of got this like, Tommy Tough Nuts type of approach. He's got, like I said, the sleeves rolled up, the whole thing, and he's trying to prove his badassness the whole time. But he keeps coming up just short. In this instance, he takes charge and he's going to kill the vampires. That is Matt Servito, Willie. And he stabs him through the chest, but he's used the plastic broom, right? So it's not a wooden stake, so it doesn't help. So there's like these series of kind of blunders. But Ken, go ahead. I know you had a story about it, kind of his background and all that.
Oh, the Marine thing you just mentioned.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm supposed to be a badass Marine. Well, in real life, Kevin Jiggets was a Marine.
Oh, cool.
So believe it or not. And I don't know if you guys in history you remember the Beirut bombing in 1983.
Sure.
Yeah. We're a little young for it, but yeah.
Yes, you could look it up, but Kevin was a Marine at the time.
Oh, okay.
And terrorists attacked the barracks in Beirut, and 241 Marines and soldiers were killed. Kevin was in the building, and he was buried under rubble. They had to dig him out, and so Kevin is a Marine, and thank you for your service, Mr. Jiggets, because you went through some stuff, and that's part of Kevin's history, and we love Kevin for that. And I sit there and Kevin and I talk about that many times, and he talked about it, since I've known him, since we met years ago on the set of Random Hearts, which was that Harrison Ford movie we met. Oh, yeah. And for years he wouldn't talk about it. He wouldn't talk about the incident, and he wouldn't talk about any of it. And, finally, after years and it was Kevin's decision, but, he bounced the idea off of me many times. He's like, should I talk about it? And I'm like, Kevin, yes, it's who you are, man. I mean, it's who, you need to tell your story. And since then, he's been going every year. He goes to the reunion of the people who lived through it at Camp Lejeune. So he goes every October. He goes down there. And so Kevin was a Marine, and just being me playing a Marine who was faking being a Marine, I felt like crap. Sometimes, some days I was just like, oh, Jesus, because I got a guy right next to me who lived it, and he saw his friends, killed. And it was tough some days.
Yeah. So, you're doing fake stolen valor in front of him.
Exactly. And I and we talked about it too. Like I pulled him aside and said, Kevin, you read the script, right? Is it okay? And he's like, yeah. He goes, it's funny. He goes, yeah, Because don't worry about it.
Well, that dynamic played into it, and I think enhanced the relationship because Jiggets' character, like he loves him. He obviously they're friends. He cares about Ken, but at the same time, there's like a little bit of like eye rolling. You know what I mean when he talks about his Marine stuff and everything, and you kind of get the feeling that he knew that Ken wasn't necessarily representing himself in the in the right light. But on a complete, maybe the biggest 180 in the history of the show, when people die, there's a recurring joke where they fart and shit everywhere.
Yes,
which is great.
And I got to tell you, the first festival it played at, there was one scene where the fart didn't happen, and I lost it. I out of the theater, man. I had the producers on the phone. I was like, "We got to get that fixed. What are we doing? This is terrible."
Get
the
your
whole
fart
movie,
guy on the phone.
We're farting. And there was the one scene when we fight them all, right? And we're killing like everybody, and they're like at the end of the scene, like there are dead bodies everywhere of clowns.
Yeah,
I'm like, "Where's the fart?" And the director was like, I thought it would be a bit much right there. I was like, are you kidding me? That's when the whole building should just go, you know what I mean? Because we just killed 10, 20 clown vampires. They should all,
just blast giant farts.
But it didn't happen. Yeah. I think we missed something. We missed an opportunity right there. We really did.
I think that's the time where like they all go off almost like firecrackers. And then once you think it's done, one more just kind of one squeaker goes off in the end.
Exactly.
Oh man. This is another almost like a trope that I don't know that I've seen before in vampire movies. One thing that in the past, and this is more of a virus vampire movie, which quite a few are. But this is an interesting thing in that typically when somebody turns into a vampire, their kind of ailments go away. But in this instance, Penny is still nearsighted, even though she's a vampire. So her losing her glasses, she's still nearsighted, which I think was genuinely the first time I've seen that as well. So adding to the vampire lore there. Bimbo pulls out his great bit, his kind of Viking horn for clowns, which is of course a bike horn, and he just holds it out over the town from a high area and just kind of honks his horn, and it calls all the vampire clowns that have kind of spread out into the town. And also it lends a little bit of a ticking clock element, right, to the film as well.
Yes.
Great scene where Stacy, Justin gets attacked by Stacy, accidentally kind of honks her boobs. I don't know how else to say it. And then gets blood barfed on. And that is just the quickest. It's like vampire accidentally honk the vampire's boobs. Vampire gets a little bit horny, then gets stabbed and barfs blood all over the kid's face. It's just a real emotional roller coaster. And then Justin's character responds accordingly, which is he's kind of traumatized. He's on edge. He pops up. He's got a gun. He's pointing it at Barney, right? Barney, the asshole from earlier, comes in, and they do this whole thing where he's making Barney dance. And Barney, in his pressure and in his panic, doesn't know anything else to do but do a sexy dance. So they're all like, "What are you doing, Barney? What's wrong with you?" Shaming him.
That's another one of my best friends, Dan Franco, who played Barney. And yes, when we do horror cons, we put a little sign on the table that say Barney will sexy dance for $1, and people come up and give us $1.
We're like, getting up and doing it.
We're like, dude, get up, let's go. And he gets up and he does his little sexy dance.
Oh man!
But yeah, man, he was a trooper, man. He was, and the stuff he came up with, he was actually practicing the twerk with the stunt guys because he didn't know how to do it. So the stunt guys were trying to teach him how to twerk.
To add on to this scene, it's just like I said, this is a really funny scene that they adds onto it as well. Is Jiggets trying to beatbox? Just I was cracking up. That was such. I wish I would have. I've only saw it the one time, and I rewound and watched it again. I was dying, but I wish I could remember just because he does a really intentionally horrible beatbox, and everybody's like, "What the fuck? Like, what are you doing?" They start shaming him, but I won't do it justice. Yeah, they're the first like, what is wrong with you? But gotta go back and watch that scene. When
did you catch my favorite line? My favorite line of the whole film, I think, is when he says, "I'm gonna bust a cap in that ass," and then I just look at him and go,
"That was good. You got that." Give him a quick thumbs up. You got it, buddy.
It's like, that was it.
The context is like throughout the film, Jiggets is firing off kind of like these stereotypical, badass thug lines, but he's messing them all up. And so that's the one he gets right. That's the one he gets right. It's just like, you got that one, dude.
Well, and then later on, he even does the thing where he's like, "I know you guys think I'm some sort of badass thug." It's like, no one actually thinks that.
I love NASCAR.
We're gonna get that. That was one of my favorite lines in the movie. "I wear sandals with socks." Anyway, so they get this kind of like quick a come and clean moment where they're all surrounded by vampires. They're kind of fighting for their life, and Ken admits that he was only a Marine for a few days. And then he accidentally shot his bunkmate and was dishonorably discharged. So he kind of comes clean on that. And then, certainly not coincidentally, after he comes clean and gets that off his chest, now all of a sudden he has this renewed sense of confidence in himself and kind of the freedom that comes with a clean conscience, I guess. So now all of a sudden he's able to kind of step up and, be a hero in the way that he, wasn't when he felt like he was pretending he was something he wasn't, right? But before we get that, we get Randall is a vampire now and has a gun, and he's just kind of firing randomly in the air, which is a fun
I think that happens a lot in this film, though, of just like the guns go off. Like, I think it seems like a post-production thing. Like sometimes the editor maybe just put in a gunfire, like, but the gun's not pointed at anything in particular. And I think it happens with Ken and Randall, and I think it even happens with Jiggets. And it's just like guns go off in this film, like anything.
Ken closes his eyes when he has the gun. Like for the first 3/4 of the movie, when he's firing the gun, he closes his eyes. And it's just kind of firing randomly. Yeah. But this is a funny scene because they dispatch Randall ultimately with a garlicky sub sandwich, right? Which I neglected to mention, Jigget's meatball sub. But Justin reaching into his pockets to try to find the car keys of Randall and accidentally touching his quote unquote vampire dick. Like, because he's a creep and he has a hole in his pocket, right? That's the joke is he's rubbing his dick through his pocket, right? Playing what my father used to say when I was a child, pocket pull. If you were ever like kind of digging in your pocket, like scratching your nuts, my dad would say, "What are you playing, pocket pull?" So he's worried because he touched Randall's vampire dick. Like I said, once Ken comes clean, he kind of starts becoming more like confident and capable. They get out of the situation. They get to the keys to the car, but then they're ambushed by the time they reach it. And Jiggets is dragged off. And then, Karen ends up being trapped in this kind of like cage enclosure. Jiggets gets dragged off. So this is kind of the low point for the gang. It's pretty much Ken and Justin. Ken explains that Jiggets was really his only friend. Justin's kind of the sad sack, young kid, kind of loser, whatever. And he's like, well, you probably have a ton of friends, and here's the kind of emotional climax when Ken's like, no, it was just Jiggets. He was my only friend. And then Justin gives him this pep talk to kind of help him, or I'm sorry, Ken gives Justin this pep talk, but then he just bails. Justin's like, no, dude, I'm not doing it. So which was kind of an unexpected, I don't want to say heel turn, but you think that like Justin and Ken, who are kind of the two like sad sacks, but for different reasons, we're going to kind of pump each other up and be there for each other. But then Justin's like, nah, dog, fuck you. I'm going to stay here and just kind of lets Ken go do his own thing. But Ken ultimately builds up the nerve and kind of goes on his own. In the meantime, Justin stays behind, finds Jigget's big stash of, what did he call it? What was the strain of weed? Hebrew Diesel or something like
Hebrew Kush. Hebrew
Kush.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Hebrew Kush.
And because we've learned at this point that Jiggets is a Jew, which we were not. No one was expecting. And he's like, I'm like Sammy Davis Jr. He goes into this big rant about it. But
what do you? How do you kill Van? What do you throw a dreidel at him?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When he said, yeah, I completely neglected to mention that, but it's a recurring gag. Justin just stays, like I said, and gets baked in the security room, and then kind of has a change of heart, and then runs out and ultimately does save Ken from Blimpo, who promptly shits his pants as soon as Justin kills him. But
I have to say, I really love like just the way they all wind up getting surrounded by all the clowns have come in. Yeah. Like the other vampires are kind of sedated from the weed, but then everybody
they put all
gets
Jigget's
together.
Weed in the they light it on fire in the ventilation system, so they get all the clowns high, which makes them either sedated or horny, depending on what type of clown you are.
Exactly.
But it's almost like video game progression, because you have like the low level office worker vampires, and they're kind of nothing. Mm-hmm. And then you have the clown cadre, which they're like more powerful. And then you have Blimpo. And Blimpo, like the actor playing him, is also Batista's stunt double. So this dude is fucking huge.
Oh, that makes sense. He's a monster. He's huge. Yeah.
He's gigantic. His thighs are as wide as like my waist. I mean, Gary Peebles. He's the biggest monster of a guy, but man, what a sweet, lovable dude, man. He's just so awesome, Gary Peebles. And yes, he's Bautista's Drax double on Marvel Guardians of the Galaxies. And
that makes a lot of sense.
And all that.
Yeah. I wish there would have been
also
more
the Rock's double in one thing as well. I can't remember, but
he may have been. Yeah, he may have been. I haven't followed that, but he's done a ton of stuff. He lives down in Atlanta now. So Bimbo was his first gig, and then he went on to do all that other great stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, would love to have some scenes of him like beside normal sized people just to see how he's a mountain of a guy.
He is. He's huge, and wide, and his legs, his thigh muscles are gigantic. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. They kind of charge in to the area. I may be stepping a step back, but they charge into the area with the fencing, and they save Karen, and then that's where Ken and Karen get their first little mini makeout session, and then you're like, oh well, maybe she's maybe she likes guys too, right? So there's like, you kind of get this little bit of a switch where everyone's a little bit surprised by that, and then ultimately, like symbolically, Ken then kills Penny, which was Karen's old lover, if you will. And then
she had to go. All right, she had to go.
Yeah, she and listen, she was a dang old vampire. So
she was doing. And the line is hilarious. She's like, "I don't do menage," and then boom, she gets tackled out of frame.
Yeah. So the final sequence of the crew kind of standing there, kind of against the onslaught of the undead that Steve talked about was really great. And we get, Steve, I can't believe you didn't mention it in that sequence, we get a full body clown burn.
We were going to get to it, but yeah, it fucking rules.
We are a big fan. Like any movie we see, if you get a full body burn, I mean, it's going up 2 notches. Love a good burn. And this was a great one. Full body. Wasn't just a flash. It was a few good seconds on screen. It's like a great car crash. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just ups the ante on any film. I don't care if it's freaking Bridges in Madison County. You set somebody on fire, you crash a car. I'm gonna watch it.
Last night at Terrace Lanes.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about
stunt crew.
I was going to ask: was it the same? Was it same stunt crew or same stunt performer even? But like
not same stunt performer, same crew though. Same
crew. Yeah. The cool thing though about both movies doing the full body burn is like the person getting burned is in a costume already. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's a clown in this movie, and then it's somebody in one of the cult tracksuits in Terrace Lanes. So it easily masks all the kind of the things that you would normally look for, like the hood, and then the kind of the Vaseline, all the things you look for to go, I see that's a burn, I see it's a stunt, but you don't see it in either of these films. They look great.
Yeah, they were layered up, and they had that stuff all underneath all of that. So absolutely. And the guy who did it, Mark Mosier, he did a fantastic job. And then just the way when he turned around and he spun and his shoe flipped up and it kind of just flipped there and then this landed perfectly right in center frame. And then it just kept burning as he went off screen. It was perfect. Yeah, it was so cool.
There's such a difference between like a good, like it's risky, it's cool no matter what. But when you have somebody who's actually can act while on fire, as opposed to, because you see the ones obviously where it's just like somebody just going, just moving their arms up and down. Like, again, still cool, but like somebody who can actually act while on fire, just saying that phrase, what should I do in this scene while on fire, right? It's just it's such a cool thing to say.
Was it one of the things where, like, because you had that fun little moment with the shoe and everything, was it something that you got on the first take and you're like, you know what, we don't have to do another one? Or did they have
we did it. One time. That was it. Once, and
Nice.
that was it. We did not have to do it again, and we didn't want to do it again because, safety reasons, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you guys ever smelled it, but there's a burning clown has a distinct smell. I'm just saying.
It's like popcorn.
Ain't nothing like burning clown in the morning. It's like napalm. It's like napalm, man.
I got to imagine it smells like popcorn. I don't know why.
It smells like
it's victory.
Burning plastic. Burning plastic and burning those costumes stink, man, when they go on.
Burning rayon or whatever.
Polyester or whatever frick it is. Yeah. And the hair, the wig, and the plastic shoes. Oh my God, it was a cacophony of just what the hell is that? So, but those guys were great, and I got to tell you a story. The fire chief in Annapolis. So, we may or may not have been fully permitted on that. I'm just saying.
Sometimes a 6-pack of beer can grease a lot of wheels, right?
Yeah,
you'd be surprised.
The fire chief in Annapolis, I coached his sons in baseball. So here I am at a baseball game. I'm sitting behind watching the game, and here comes the fire chief from Annapolis. He walks up next to me, and he's like, "So, heard there was a burning clown somewhere in Annapolis." I was like, I don't know anything about that.
Could have been.
He goes,
could have been.
Yeah,
clowns burn every night, Chief.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know anything about that. He's like, well, hopefully it won't happen anytime soon again. I was like, yeah, probably not. But
I mean, how often does that happen?
Apparently, he heard about it. So,
yep. Sometimes it's better to ask.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
Exactly. And that's where we were at with that whole, because, I was nervous as hell, man. Ooh, let me tell you, I'm producing this movie. I did not, and the stunt crew was phenomenal. They're every safety precaution you can imagine, man. We had everything lined up. We had EMT people there. We had everything. So
yeah.
So they were fantastic. They did a great job. It wasn't like we went into this and we just, decided, we're going to set somebody on fire and we weren't ready.
Right.
These guys were fully prepared with every safety precaution you could think of. So,
yeah, of course. So we're getting to the climax here. So we get, Ken finally gets that moment where he proves himself with that kind of, take the shot moment, right? When Karen's getting, accosted by the clown. The final boss clown shows up, kind of the Goro, if you will, of clowns shows up. And then Jiggets shows up to save the day, right? You kind of knew Jiggets wasn't dead, right? There's no way he's going to die that unceremoniously, but he does come back at the exact right time, and explains that his garlic burps are what saved him from getting dragged off by clowns earlier. They're still all trapped. There's a bunch of clowns around. Ken, this is I almost wonder if this was well, could have, now that you said Shaun of the Dead, I was thinking Walking Dead, but Ken gets this idea that he's going to cut his arm and then cover themselves in blood, like it's sunscreen or something. And then that reminded me of a scene from, I don't know, season 1 or season 2, early on in The Walking Dead, but also they do a very similar thing in Shaun of the Dead,
Right.
Yeah. But they're going to go over and pull the curtains. They're going to kind of stumble over, pretend they're the undead, be covered in blood, and then pull the curtains. Right before, this is when you get that really funny moment where Jiggets explains his affinity for white people culture. Like, I know you guys think I'm this badass, gangster, but I love NASCAR and I wear socks with sandals. And he goes through this whole long bit. Really,
I love camping. I love camping.
Because he was like, earlier he was ridiculing white people for camping. But yeah, so this funny kind of, everyone kind of comes clean. And then they go over and pull it, and then something as silly as somebody's watch was fast, and it's not quite light yet. So
it was my watch.
Yeah. Ken's watch isn't working. And then the way that it's ultimately saved is Justin really ends up being kind of the savior, but the foil at the same time, because he's this badass metal drummer kind of guy. But he ends up, as they're getting attacked, his back gets exposed and he's got a full back cross tattoo. Which he's of course like self-conscious and embarrassed of, but they kind of hold him up as the cross. So they're spinning him around and using him as the cross to fend off the vampires for the last few seconds, just as the sun kind of crests above the horizon and burns all the clowns and the clown vampires. They all get burned up. So you have everyone as far as the main kind of four there. Ken, Jiggets, Justin, and Karen all survive. So they walk out in the harsh light of day kind of thing with this new purpose, which is of course to continue to kill vampires and ultimately help save the human race from this plague of vampires, and some of which may or may not be clowns. And that's the credits. That's the Night Watchmen from 2017. Loved this movie. Really, really fun watch. Lots of laughs, lots of gore. Just a really fun comedy horror movie from beginning to end. So congratulations. Awesome. Really fun movie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a blast making it. I mean, and I think that translates to on screen as well. So we had a blast.
Yeah, it's one of those things because, like you mentioned, how many people you were just friends with, like with Dan and Jiggets and even Barney. Like that chemistry comes through, and then just everybody else you added, obviously you have like some really strong professional performances of guys who have been doing it for a long, long time that can just come in and just enhance any movie they go into. And then, the other people that you added, like Kara and the guy who plays Justin, are just also, like they're just funny at what they do. So yeah, it works out all the way around. I wanted to ask about the music because there's a couple things. The music's cool. I really like the music and it stands out. So I did a little research. Probably one of the things that made me got into doing the research though is the first opening song. It sounds like kind of a knockoff of People Who Died. Like it's not a cover. But it's just like somebody doing a take on it, but it's a really well done one. And then the closing credits song sounds like Lights Out by UFO. And I was like, who? And then everything that's in between is really good and like also has like this kind of hard synth about it. And so I looked up who did you guys' music and like, how involved with the music were you?
I wasn't that involved with the music. The director, Mitchell Altieri, was more involved. And that was a band that he was friends with who did most of the music throughout the movie. Now, the music at the beginning of the movie was done by, and that was a band that's local here to Annapolis that you guys might know, Jimmy's Chicken Shack. You ever hear of Jimmy's Chicken Shack?
Yep.
They had a hit back
Jimmy's
in the early 90s. Yes. They were in the movie. That was the band that he's playing with. Yeah.
Yeah. What did I do?
Do right.
Do right. Yeah.
Yes. What did I do right? Yes.
I'm not joking.
So I actually went.
I played in a band in high school, and we used to cover that song because Jimmy's Chicken Shack was big in Pittsburgh. They got a lot of radio play when I was in like middle school, and we used to cover Do Right. And to this day, if me and my friend Brian, which I think Steve's known, his name's Brian as well. If we get enough beers in us and pull out the guitars, we will cover Do Right still to this day.
Dude, I go fishing with Jimmy. So.
Love that album. I still have that album. I mean, somewhere on this big shelf beside me, I have that Jimmy's Chicken Shack CD.
Yeah, me and Jimmy, we go fishing together now. We're just two old dudes sitting on a boat. He tells me about all his concert stories and I tell him about all my baseball stories. We have a blast. So
that's such a wild coincidence. Yeah, I was a big fan.
He's great. He's in the movie. They're all in the movie. They're in the band in the beginning when we're grilling Rajiv and we're looking at the video of him playing in the band. That's Jimmy's Chicken Shack. That's the band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have never known that in a million years.
Then the other music I was looking up, and Brian, you'll probably recognize these names, is like it's guys from other bands. But one of them is a guy from Atreyu. Like, yeah, according to the credits, from what I could find, all the other songs that were composed, they were composed by there's a guy, like just pieces of different metal hardcore bands. So like Atreyu and I think Dance of Death or something. Ugh, my shitty brain.
Yeah, those
come back.
Those are all friends of the director. Yeah, those were all friends of the director, Mitchell Altieri. He brought those guys on board. So yeah. And I thought he was great, man, with the selections of the songs. They were fantastic.
Yeah, they're all good. That's just like, it stands out because like not every like independent film gets like really well done music, and this has like a bunch of really strong songs. And like you said, you have like Jimmy's Chicken Shack being in the movie. Dance of the Dead is the synth band. So like they're in that kind of gunship health kind of doing synth retro wave and hard style stuff. But yeah, it's all really good.
Yeah. I mean, so there is, I think for whatever reason, like, so I'll take a step back. Comedy as a genre of film, I grew up, it was the biggest thing, right? That's all I watch, right? Like we said, it's Mel Brooks movies, you know, and you know, as I got a little bit older and into, you know, high school and college, it was a bunch of, you know, Mike Myers and Will Ferrell and all those guys. Like these were the big, you know, blockbuster movies, you know, your Austin Powers and your you know, like I said, a whole host of different Will Ferrell movies. And in the last decade, we've talked about this in other episodes as well, the comedy genre has fallen off. You look at the movies that are in the box office that do big business, or even that are getting, you know, independent releases and stuff too, is like obviously horror, right? You see a lot of the obviously superhero movies and all that stuff, but it's like comedy's kind of is in a bit of a downturn right now. But comedy horror has been something that's kind of hung around, but it's hard to pull off. But I think, I don't want to say it's hard to, it is hard to pull off because it's easy to mess up, right? If you don't have a cast that has chemistry, if you try to hire people that aren't comedic actors or don't have comedic timing, it can just turn so cringy so fast. And you guys just pulled it off brilliantly with this one.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, the writing is where it starts, right? So you got Jamie Nash, who's hilarious. And I don't know if you guys know Jamie Nash. He also directed Last Night at Terrace Lanes. Okay. So I've worked with Jamie Nash a number of times. He's one of the funniest people on the planet, right? He's hilarious. Dan DeLuca also, who wrote the film. Him and Jamie Nash wrote The Night Watchmen. Both are hysterical. And they gave us the freedom, you know, on set. Mitchell gave us the freedom to play around. You know, we got everything scripted, like, you know, as it was written. But then we did scenes and did takes where they were like, go ahead, have fun with it. Some of that made it into the movie, not all of it, but, you know, it was good. I've worked with those guys so many times. And to work with your friends, Dan DeLuca, Kevin Jiggets, Dan Franco, you know, Matt Servito, and to work with those guys, it's just, when you put us all together and we're all friends and we get to have fun for a month and a half, it was amazing. It was an amazing time, you know, lightning in a bottle, and it just worked. It really just all came together when there was a point. And not many people know this, and you guys are probably the first podcast to ever hear this. I'm going to tell you right now. We shot 3 days that nobody will ever see. We shot the first 3 days of that film nobody will ever see. And we rewrote the entire script in a day and started shooting on the fourth day with an entire new cast.
Wow.
Of different people.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. You guys, you will never see those first 3 days ever.
What? So I got to ask, what was the impetus? Like what happened? It wasn't what you wanted it to be.
The director and the producers, they came to us after the third day. You know, I was one of the producers on it as well, and they were just like, it's not working. And what happened was there were only 3 original Night Watchmen in the original script. there wasn't a Rajiv. There wasn't a fourth guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And what happened was Dan DeLuca was playing a Rajiv character. But as we started shooting the first couple of days, it didn't work. He was too old. He just, we weren't feeling it. The director, the producers were just like, yeah, it's not happening. Mm-hmm. So after the third day, we had to make changes. So we went to the LA casting director. We hired Max Wilbur, had him come in to do the Rajiv character. They were essentially just going to get rid of Dan DeLuca and just get rid of his, not have him in the movie. And I said, look, Dan and I have been working on this for years. He's either in the movie or we're not making a movie.
Yeah.
So, and I gave him the idea. I said, look, maybe he's a mysterious kind of character that can't really speak great English, that kind of lingers in the background. But turns out my idea worked because they worked it into the thing. And, we were able to, let me tell you something. The changes we made the movie better.
Oh,
right. It still would have been a decent. Yes. It still would have been a decent movie. What we were doing would not have been what it became if we didn't make those changes. So we have 3 days of footage that nobody will ever see. So,
well, that's such a big risk that you took that paid off, because I imagine a lot of people who have been working on that and 3 days in and you're doing a full rewrite and all this stuff, that feels like the kiss of death. And it probably did at the time a little bit. Right. But boy, did that.
You better believe it did. You better believe it did. And you guys are the first people that are hearing this because, we're far enough out from making that movie now. I don't care anymore. So,
right. Well, I mean, and obviously it paid off so well. And two things I'll say. One, the dynamic between the older guys and the younger guy made all the difference because now you guys are the upperclassmen. This is the freshman that you're hazing, right? Yeah. And then second of all, never would have guessed in a million years that the Luca character was an afterthought. It felt like it was baked in from the beginning. Yeah.
No, he was not. He did not even exist. Wasn't even. Boom. 3 days into shooting, he didn't exist.
Yeah.
And then on the fourth day, all of a sudden,
it works perfect. Yep. Works perfectly though.
Yeah. It does. It doesn't feel shoehorned at all.
I was in some meetings where people wanted to beat the shit out of each other. It wasn't me. I didn't want to beat the hell out of anybody, but I had to step in and break people up and say, look, this is what we have to do. You know what I mean? We got to do what we got to do. And to be honest, in my opinion, it made the movie a better movie. It really did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So. It is a super, super fun flick. And I'm really hoping that more people start talking about it because, there's so much between, the last 8 years, the amount of horror movies that have come out, right? It's just like an embarrassment of riches in terms of horror fans. So what that's created for me as a horror nerd is like, you can find hidden gems, and we do all the time, where it's like, this is not a movie that's on Shudder, right? Or this is not a movie that's getting a release on, whatever. But you can find these hidden gems that all came out within the last 10 years. And when this came out, this went right by me for whatever reason. And now you can find them and kind of really, champion them. It's almost like the, people of, maybe a couple in a generation or two ago where it was like there was this just huge influx of, the kind of, drive-in type movies, right? And you're like, yeah, there's tons of shit out there. And when you go out on Tubi, Amazon, even Shudder to a certain extent, which is supposed to be more well curated, and it is, I love that app. But you go out there and it's like, sometimes you do feel like you're shoveling through a lot of shit to find a diamond. But that just makes it all the more rewarding as a horror nerd for myself to find something like this. Obviously, this kind of fell in our lap, right? We didn't really necessarily need to find it. But to find something that was such a fun movie that just came out 5-6 years ago that just missed me for whatever reason. So I would definitely urge anybody, any of our listeners, if you listen to the show, you're definitely going to like The Night Watchmen. But I do want to ask you before we wrap up, Ken, any other, what else you working on? Right. I know last night Terrace Lanes just came out, so that's big for you right now. Yep. And that's on Shudder as well, right? That's on. Was that on Shudder?
It's not on Shudder yet. Satanic Hispanics is going to be on Shudder.
Satanic Hispanics is going to be on Shudder. That's right.
And I'm in that.
Yep.
Which is a very Ken's bit. Just before you get on to your new movie, because I'm excited to talk about this too. But like Ken's bit in Satanic Hispanics is so fucking fall down funny. Like it's really short, but it's just the back and forth with the thrall is so fucking funny. It'll catch you.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun shooting that too. The guy in the scene with me, Darian Rothschild, is actor from here who's phenomenal. And he just booked the role on Law and Order, so he's doing Law and Order now. Yeah, cool. And Hemke Madera, the vampire in there, who was in Spider-Man Homecoming, and I mean he's a great actor, and we had a great time on set, and big baseball fan, which is good because I know baseball. So
right on.
There you have it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Also, just real quick. Also, that segment is directed by the director who did the Blair Witch Project. And so in the background, you can actually catch one of the Blair Witch kind of stick figures as part of the graffiti in the background of that scene.
Yes, you can.
Very cool.
Yes, you can. Eduardo Sanchez, and actually one of the kids that gets killed in the scene that leads up to our scene was his son, Lucas Sanchez. So so one of the kids that gets killed in the scene leading up to that is his son. Yeah, who was also in Last Night at Terrace Lanes. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we do a lot of this. Incestuous kind of thing here in Frederick, Baltimore area.
That's how it always is. It's same thing in Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
It's same thing everywhere. So, well, tell us about your upcoming projects.
The poster behind me, A Town Called Purgatory, is a horror Western we actually shot in Austria during the pandemic, which was insane. Wow. Do in another country, and never would have thought they'd have a Western town south of Vienna. So but they did, and we shot a Western over there during the pandemic. Last Night at Terrace Lanes. It's not Last Night at Terrace Lanes. It's A Town Called Purgatory, horror Western. We are hitting the festival circuit now. We're trying to sell it. It's a creature movie. It's got a monster in it. So horror Western. You're
speaking kind of all my languages.
Yeah. So based on a Navajo legend, the Skinwalker. So
yeah,
if you guys know the Skinwalker, it's not a comedy. Sure. So we kind of went straight horror Western with this one. It was a film that we could do with a small cast in a deserted Western town in Austria. By the way, their government paid for all our COVID testing, so we didn't have that expense, which was phenomenal. That was great. That's pretty much the reason we shot there. It was our own little bubble, our own COVID bubble, so we could shoot in there. And we shot for 20 some odd days and nobody got COVID the whole time. So it was great.
Oh, awesome.
Nice. I'm sure the beer in Vienna or outside Vienna, wherever you're at, didn't have anything to do with why you shot there either.
Yeah. Gosser. Let me tell you something, man. You walk into any grocery store or whatever, man, they had walls of just beer. And I tried a ton of beers over there and they were all fantastic. Yeah, I didn't find one Austrian beer that I was just like, yeah, this sucks. No, they were all really
one of
good.
My favorite beers go to. I was very fortunate. I've been very fortunate working in the beer industry to be able to travel, Germany, Czech Republic, and Austria, and Hungary, and all that stuff. And one of my absolute favorite beers, I love, German, Central European style lager beers. A beer, there's a local brewery in Vienna called Ottakringer. Ottakringer Helles is just one of the world's greatest beers. I absolutely love that. And man, eating Austrian donuts, because boy, do they know how to make pastries in Vienna as well. Eating
they do.
Viennese donuts and drinking Ottakringer, man, that's like That's like the Austrian version of the Mackenzie brothers or something like that. I just want to live that life forever. But yeah, I'm super excited to check this movie out.
I'm looking at the chat over here. D Knight says I was in an excellent World War II docudrama, Wereth 11, and he is correct. That was one of my favorite roles to portray, D Knight. Just so you know, it was an SS officer. You know, it was a Nazi, but it was very Darth Vader like to play that kind of a role. You know, that evil entity. You know, when you put that outfit on, I couldn't wait to get it off. But when you put that thing on, you know, you became that character. You became that evil entity. You became that thing, you know, that everybody hated. But yeah, so yes, the Wereth 11. I did that. It was one of my favorite things. The producer of that, Joe Small, what a fantastic guy. He's passed away, but he was such a great guy. I really enjoyed working with him on that. That was his dream to make that. And it actually did some good. It got a memorial built over in Belgium. For those soldiers, the Wereth 11. Yes, it did. It got a monument built over there. So I was very proud to work on that project. So
that's
very
awesome.
Cool.
I wanted to jump back to you're talking filming in Austria, and I don't know if you know. Have you seen the film The Dark Valley? And
I have not. I'm going to write that down.
It's more of a straight revenge Western, but it was also filmed in Austria. I was just wondering if it possibly that you filmed in the same area, since like you're saying, like it's weird that a Western town would exist in Austria. And I was just wondering, maybe is that the same town that's still, but it's like, it sits deep. It literally sits deep in the valley of the Austrian mountains. I don't know if it's the kind of same setting for you guys.
We weren't that deep into the Austrian mountains, but we did have the background. Like our background was mountains. Yeah. So we weren't in the valley of the mountains, but yeah, we had the mountains in the background. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right on. It's a fucking brutal revenge film, though, if you want to check it out. The Dark Valley.
Oh, I love revenge films. Did you guys see Sisu yet?
Oh, yeah. That movie fucking rules.
I loved it.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Dude.
I got to check it out. It's on my to-watch. It's on my my letterbox.
I watched it 2 days ago. Man, I loved it. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of killing Nazis, that one is all about killing Nazis.
But it was great. There were some great kills in that. Fantastic.
Yeah, brutal, and it gets silly. It just like it's straight up just power fantasy of just like killing Nazis, and that's why that movie rules.
Yep.
One last question from Dan. Dan's just wondering, did you ever have a time to play for the Montreal Expos? Because he was a fan of the Expos.
I did not, but I played against the Expos quite a bit. Harrisburg Senators, played against those guys. Mark Grudzielanek, Vladimir Guerrero, played against him in the Florida State League. Probably one of the best players I ever saw in person or played against, Vladimir Guerrero. He was phenomenal. Threw me out at first base. Ugether Urbina, which you might know from the Expos days. He was pitching, and I hit, it was bases loaded, and I hit a line drive one hopper at the right fielder, Vladimir, and he threw me out at first base. That's how good this guy was. It was incredible.
His arm was, he's a freak, and his son's a freak athlete too. Like I remember watching his son hit, 400 plus foot home runs when he was in high school. You know what I mean? Just these clips of him just athletic. Just
so you guys know,
prowess of those guys.
I went to spring training with the Pirates. I did. I was on.
Really?
In 1998, I was with the Pirates in spring training, and let me tell you something. It was the best spring training I ever had. Best spring training I ever had. I was tearing it up. You couldn't get me out. It was crazy. And they made a trade with the Cubs, and they got two young middle infielders, and they needed room. And they were like, look, they called me in the office. They were like, look, you had a great spring training, but we got to make room. So it's a business. And they let me go. And I went on and had 2 good seasons doing, playing somewhere else. But I would have loved to have played for the Pirates. I was waiting in the parking lot for my wife to pick me up, and Willie Stargell came out of his car. He just pulled in, and he's like, and he knew why I had just been released. So, yeah. So, but he was great, and I got to have a moment with Willie Stargell, which was really cool.
That's cool.
He's maybe my all-time favorite. Although I was a little young to see him play, I'm a big Willie. I have my Willie Stargell jersey in my office. Yeah. But I spent a lot of time with the team in my line of work and at the ballpark, and there's him and Roberto Clemente. I don't think there's anybody who's spoken more highly of than Willie Stargell. Just a quick baseball nerd comment. I would kill to be able to meet Willie Stargell. It's pretty cool. And frankly, I lived in Milwaukee and Chicago for a period of time for work, and a lot of my friends are big Cubs fans, so they'll be excited to hear we had you on the show. And I grew up watching we had WGN here in Pittsburgh, believe it or not, so we watched a lot of Cubbies games growing up. So very, very cool. Very cool to have you on.
Oh, great. Yeah, the Cubs, working with the Cubs, being on the Cubs was fantastic. I got to play with Andre Dawson, Ryan Sandberg, Mark Grace. So I had a blast playing for those. I still have a Ryan Sandberg poster that I bought at a book fair in probably 3rd grade. And I had that Ryan Sandberg poster on my wall for, probably a good 10 years at least. He was my guy. He was my guy back in the day, especially after the, Sid Bream play at the plate and all that. And there was some years, I've always been a Pirates fan since I was a kid, but boy, there's some years it was pretty tough. I've always been, especially when I lived up that way. I've always been a Cubbies fan as well, but cool. Anything else? Anything else, Steve, that I forgot? Anything else we should mention? I'll remind all our listeners out there, go check out our picks for the Showdown episode for next week. We got old Clown Ben coming back on here. He's going to be talking about Clown Town from 2016. I'm going to talk about Blood Harvest from 1987, and Steve's going to talk about this mysterious movie, which I'm excited for, Killer Clown from 2009, and then check out Fear of Clowns from 2004 from Ken's suggestion. I'm excited to check that out as well. Anything else I'm forgetting, Steve?
No, that's about it. Thanks, Ken, for coming on. I want to say everybody who's listened to this and wanted to talk to Ken, you should have signed up for our Patreon. Halloween is forever. Get on there. The next time we have a guest, maybe you can interact too. You jokes.
Yeah. Come on, you cheap bastards. Go out there and give us paper money. And definitely go out and check out not only Last Night at Terrace Lanes, which we talked about recently, but the Night Watchmen from 2017. You're going to have a blast with that movie as well. So, Ken, thank you again. This was an absolute pleasure. Love the stories. Just so happy to have you on. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. And trust me, I got way more stories. You ever want to talk about A Town Called Purgatory? I got stories. I got plenty.
I'm excited for that one to come out. Well, you said it's on the not to jump back into it, but the festival circuit now, right?
We're in the process of trying to sell it. We've got a lot of offers, just not the one we're looking for yet. So we're just, so you're gonna be able to see it on the streamers and everything soon. But we're just waiting for that right offer. So, yeah.
All right. We'll keep our ear to the ground on that one, and excited to see it.
And
when
just
it comes out.
Just to mention, I don't think we mentioned it, but pretty much everybody that's in the Night Watchmen is back for this one. Like Servito,
absolutely,
DeLuca, Jiggets, they're all there. So it's everybody.
Oh wow.
Yes. So it's not everybody, but
getting the band back together.
We did get part of the band back together. Servito directs, and Servito directs, and he plays one of the bad guys. I'm in it. DeLuca's in it. Jiggets is in it. So yeah, we went to Austria, and that's the fun part about making movies. We all kind of use the same kind of crew, throughout, whether it's, actors, stunt crew, people who were, shooting it, camera people, sound people. We use the same crew. So, yeah.
Right on.
We've been successful. Well, so why not keep using the same folks,
Right.
Yeah. You got that comfort level, right? We can't wait to see it. Well, like I said, we'll keep our ears to the ground, and please keep us abreast of any fun developments there, because we would absolutely love to have you on and talk about it when the time comes. So thank you again, Kevin. Kevin, Jesus Christ, I've had 5 years. Thank you again, Ken. Thank you again, Ken.
Well, thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
And I'm Killer Clown.
No, you're not. See you, Ken. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.